Hey, what's up, bro? So actually, I'm here to say that I messed up. On one of my previous videos, I explained to you what the perfect sound system for your C6 Corvette was. I told you everything from what speakers to use, the subwoofer, the head unit, and actually, I may or may not have given you incorrect information, but it's not my fault, bro. I'm still trying to figure this out. I actually was chasing an interference noise that happened right after I installed my sound system, and I'm gonna be honest with you, bro, the issue actually ended up being that I selected the incorrect head unit. I don't want you to go through the same thing, so Mr. NSA is here to save the day. Mr. Operator Penetrator, Angel by legal name, Demon by night. I'm gonna tell you exactly which is the head unit that I would recommend if you're doing a sound system in your C6 Corvette. Now let me tell you the three options. So the first option is gonna be the DMH 4660 NEXs from Pioneer. The second option is going to be the DMX907s from Kenwood, the Excelon package, and then the third option is going to be the XAV AX6000 from Sony. So those are the three main ones, the three headliners that I'd say would be worth considering. So I'm sure you've seen the OEM double din head unit that comes in packages like the 3OT. With the 4660, it had a very similar look to it. It had all the nice features, the Apple CarPlay. So that's the reason why that was my first option. Now, when I first got it, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was so excited. It was a huge upgrade from the analog Atari looking bullshit that I had on there before, because my car is obviously the 1OT package. I didn't have the cool double din, so it was trash. When I got the Pioneer, it was like everything changed, but it wasn't all perfect. It did have its drawbacks. One of the main drawbacks with the Pioneer 4660 was the display. Even though the resolution was really good, really high quality, the screen was a little bit laggy. So it actually had about a 1 second delay in responsiveness. The second thing, which was actually very annoying, is sometimes I'd be fighting the Apple CarPlay for like 5 minutes. I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't connect to my phone. I never actually figured out what the issue was, but that was a very annoying inconvenience that happened with the 4660. The output wasn't the best in the market. There are definitely other head units that had better specs as far as output power. The filtering built into the head unit is not the best, which is the reason why I got rid of it. Actually, when I first installed the sound system, the more I drove it, the more this radio interference noise started popping out. It started getting louder, obnoxious, and actually it was relative to the speed. It's actually pretty annoying because the faster you go, the louder the sound gets. You see? This is the annoying thing I'm talking about. I hate the sound. I took it back to the shop. I thought there was maybe like some wiring issue, bad grounding. They were trying to diagnose it. They had the car for about 2 days and they couldn't figure out any flaws in the wiring. So what they came to the conclusion was that the Pioneer didn't have good enough internal filtering, and that's the reason why the noise was transmitting and it was getting worse as I drove it. Since the beginning, they told me they did not recommend using the Pioneer, but I insisted just for the sole reason that I liked the aesthetics of it. It had the look that I was going for, so I decided to ignore their advice, and at the end of the day, the pros were right. Who would have guessed it?
Let him get up, let him get up. Fight back! Fight back!
They actually explained to me that the reason why the interference happens on these Corvettes is because the body is completely made either out of fiberglass or carbon fiber, and the vehicle wasn't designed with the best grounding points. Now, they tried some methods of grounding the head unit. It didn't help, so at the end of the day, there was no other option than to upgrade to the head unit that they've used before that they knew for a fact worked. All right, bro, keep in mind that I'm not an audio wizard. I don't know everything there is to know, but I have done a tremendous amount of research trying to figure out what head unit to buy initially when building the sound system, and also talking to the pros, going back and forth, asking questions. So I do have a good amount of knowledge in the topic. Hopefully you can use this information. It can be helpful to you, because you know, pushing gears here, we like to keep it raw. Whatever I do in my Corvette, I want to put it out there in case you want to recreate it for your C6 Corvette. That way we all have a community of badass cars. So obviously I had to take the L, and I had to go from the Pioneer to the Kenwood. As soon as I installed it, I can say I noticed that the screen was about 10 times more responsive than the Pioneer. Also, the built-in equalizer, it was a lot more user-friendly. It was a lot easier to use, and with the screen unit being so responsive, you could definitely hear the changes in the sound as you're adjusting it. You can see if I play around with it, very responsive. I can go in my playlist, scroll around really fast. I was not able to do that with the Pioneer. I can go on maps, I can go anywhere I want to go, and it works instantly. It works right away. I'm so amazed with how good this quality is. It's unbelievable, to be honest. I'm not even kidding you, bro. I'm not bullshitting you. The sound quality was at least 1,000 times better than with the Pioneer. So on my drive back, I was so freaking blown away because I didn't know this current setup that I had so much freaking potential. So without getting copyrighted, let me show you how well the sound system sounds now. I'm not joking, bro. The vocals sound so much more clear. The bass just hits harder. The clarity is just even better than before. You notice how much more powerful the kicks are. The vocals are super bright. The highs are really crisp and they're not clipping. Just for the quality alone, it was definitely worth going from the Pioneer to the 907S. But the best thing of it all, when I was driving home, the interference noise was completely gone. I'm driving, the noise doesn't transmit inside anymore. It's nice and quiet. Now, as far as the downsides on the Kenwood, it does have a bigger screen. The quality is a little bit less than with the Pioneer. So you can see the quality is definitely not horrible. I just felt like the Pioneer was a little bit sharper. Another downside of the screen, it does horrible during sunsets or when the sun hits it. You can't see shit. And I even tried playing around with the contrast, all the settings. I don't know what type of material Pioneer used for the 4660, and I can assure you my fingers have not gotten any greasier from one head unit to the next. But with this Excelon head unit, I constantly have to keep wiping it because just every single tap gets marked into the screen. I'm not sure what the difference is in the materials, but that's definitely something I've noticed. So that's the final product. Once you adjusted the colors, it kind of blends in a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie to you, it doesn't look horrible because I feel like the buttons on the top do match the ones at the bottom a little bit, and those buttons on the air conditioning make it blend in, so it doesn't look like they're sticking out too far out. So this is from a different angle right here. As far as aesthetics, it's not 100% what I wanted, but I'd rather have a fully functioning head unit that makes the sound system sound 1,000 times better, works better. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with the result. I think it came out just all right. So the last of the three is gonna be the Sony XAV AX6000. That one I've seen people use it on C6 Corvettes before and they don't have any issues, so I'm guessing the filtering is just as good as the Kenwood. Even though the Sony is a worthy competitor, the pros at the audio shop swore that the Excelon was actually a better head unit, and I ignored them the first time. I wasn't gonna make the same mistake again, so I decided to go with the recommendation. Even though I actually like the looks of the Sony a little bit more, it looks closer to the OEM. The Sony actually does have better warranty. They have the same specs as far as output, but I think this head unit is still a bit more responsive. The Sony may have a little bit better quality, but even though I tried to talk my way into buying a Sony, they said, don't waste your time with it. Excelon is the way to go. Now, as far as the downsides of the Sony, I can think of two major ones. The first one being that the home screen layout, I'd say, is the ugliest of the three. It's not as appealing to play around with it. It looks kind of boring. It doesn't have the same sensitivity in the screen, and it actually has a smaller display. It only has wireless Apple CarPlay. With the Pioneer and with the Kenwood, you got both the wireless or the wired Apple CarPlay, which means that you can be charging your phone and it instantly pulls up the Apple CarPlay and you got connection right away without having to wait for the wireless connection to kick in. Now, I didn't install the Sony on my vehicle. I've seen other people on YouTube do it, but I have played around with the unit at different stereo shops. I've used it on customers' cars, so I kind of have an idea how it works. And even then, I can tell you that the Kenwood does feel a lot smoother to navigate, but the Sony is definitely a worthy competitor. I'd say it would be Kenwood, Sony, and then the Pioneer. As far as aesthetics, I'd say Pioneer, Sony, Kenwood, but function over form, I guess, is the best way to go on this one. All right, bro, so at the end of the day, it is all my fault. I am a bit of a dumbass for ignoring all the recommendations that the pros gave me, but you know how it is, bro. You usually have a vision and you try to stick with it as best as you can. I know how my interior wanted to look, and that's what I decided to go with, and as you saw, it bit me in the ass completely. I'd suggest going with the Kenwood head unit if you could. If not, the Sony's also a better option. Yeah, the last thing you would want is to turn on your radio and hear more static than when you were watching a VHS movie and the film finally ends and you see like all the gray screen going full volume. That sound was traumatizing. It's still in the back of my mind. If you know, you know. So I think that's it for now as far as the chronicles and the saga of the sound system. But who knows, maybe something else will break tomorrow. In that case, we'll see you next week, bro.